at the. Ladies and gentlemen, if you maybe got a flag football game later, I don't know, maybe you're playing football later, maybe you're a young person, getting ready to play football, it is important that if you're trying to cross the goal line and score a touchdown, keep the ball within your possession before you cross the goal line. Just like we learned on that fateful Monday night game against the Dallas Cowboys with Deshaun Jackson all those years ago. Just like maybe a Denver Broncos fan learned on a Danny Trevathan fumble return for a would-be touchdown, but he also dropped it before he got into the end zone because he was too busy thinking about his celebration. Hold on to the football before you cross the line. If you watch the prime game last night, the Amazon game last night between the Jets and the Texans, you saw this happen. Keep the ball in your hands, folks. Keep the ball in your hands. Secondly, remember that touchdown? Was it Monday? Who had the Monday Night Football? Had the Steelers game. I'm getting confused between Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football was the Steelers. So Garrett Wilson has a touchdown last night for the Jets where he tapped his foot twice, and on the second tap, his shin hits the ground. George Pickens' touchdown for the Steelers, where he hopped on one foot twice but did not get the shin down, did not count. Garrett Wilson did count last night. Just thought it was interesting, and I thought they were eerily similar until you saw the review and then saw the shin in. So an elbow equals 2 feet, a shin equals 2 feet, and a knee certainly equals 2 feet. Just something to think about for the NFL Rules Committee in the offseason. The shin is without question. That's always been the thing. The shin has always been. When it comes to the other thing, the 2 toe taps there and about 3 yards in the end zone when you touch those toes on the same foot twice, maybe go, oh, he's got that. He's got that. Now, I also thought of this because on the Corley would-be touchdown that ended up being a fumble out of the back of the end zone. That also made me think about what I still think is the dumbest rule in sports, which is the fumble out of the end zone is not only a turnover, but also the opposing team gets it. It was still 20 yards up. It was 25. I forget what it was last night. But anyway, still the dumbest rule. The dumbest. A bit of a harsh penalty. Does it drastically favor the defense, though, in a league that is always turning to make sure they benefit the offense? Yeah, so I understand that part of the argument. However, it's still stupid. For instance, if you do something stupid like drop the ball at the 1-inch line as opposed to cross the goal line, break the plane with it, and then it fumbles out of the end zone and it's turnover, yeah, then maybe that's appropriate. But maybe every other time, it's kind of dumb. So looking at it last night, one of the things that it made me think about was the dumbest rule and then the other dumb rules. And it made me think again about the George Pickens would-be touchdown versus the Garrett Wilson touchdown in last night's game. After all that settled, though, the New York Jets found a way to win and beat the Houston Texans. And don't think for a second I didn't check the snap count already. Devin White for the Houston Texans last night. 10 snaps for the Houston Texans last night. And no, they weren't on special teams. They were on defense. So he got on the football field for the Houston Texans. So how about that? Former Eagles training camp body, Devin White, got, and pretty high on the depth chart, if I'm not mistaken, got on the field last night for the Houston Texans. So there you go. We're going to get into our 5 things that I'm watching for in this Philadelphia Eagles versus Jacksonville Jaguars game. We got all the feels in the world surrounding this game when you talk about Doug Peterson, the Eagles' only Super Bowl winning coach, coming back to South Philadelphia. Maybe take a picture next to the Bud Light. What is it? The Bud Light billboard they have there. Oh, the statue. That's what people call it. His statue. The Philly statue. So that's out there. Maybe we'll take a picture with that. And also LaShawn McCoy being inducted to the Eagles Hall of Fame. How about that? The Eagles' all-time leading rusher. Yeah, it does make you think about what could have been with that whole era. The Chip Kelly era. 2 Philadelphia generational talents, the all-time leading rusher in LaShawn McCoy, and someone who could have been the Eagles' all-time leading receiver in Deshaun Jackson. Conversation for another day, but it definitely puts the quarter in that grudge machine that is ever running, really, when you think about Chip Kelly, even though the Eagles won a Super Bowl 2 years after he left. We'll get to that conversation a little bit But mainly keep it to the Birds and Jacksonville Jaguars kicking off coming up on Sunday, 4:05. So that's what's going down. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in once again to the show. This is the FLYERS Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. It's lovely to have you along for this ride. First and foremost, let's talk about Doug Peterson coming back to South Philadelphia. Here's one of his former players, Brandon Graham, talking about his Super Bowl winning coach coming back to South Philadelphia.
You know what? It's going to be good. Pre-game, showing all the coaches love that was here. 2017 was special. We're trying to make 2024 even more special. So we got to make sure the whole goal is to go out there and try to get a win, but it's definitely going to be good to see him.
That's all I want to hear. That's all I want to hear. 2017 into 2018 was pretty special. 2024 into 2025 is also going to be pretty special. They're doing their damnedest to make sure that it is. And it has been such an absolute joy. If there's anything you could look at from this Eagles season, and I know you could concentrate on Saquon Barkley dropping a pass against the Falcons. You could certainly look back on that. You could look at Eagles beating the Browns, but the agony of victory, or excuse me, the joy of victory and the agony of watching your head coach yell at the home fans, their own fan base after the win. The kids at the press conference afterwards, all the turmoil, watching the Eagles get the brakes beat off them by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers again in Tampa. Not great. Not great. There's negatives that you could certainly focus on this season, despite the fact that you are watching a 5-2 football team. There's bad things. However, especially on the defensive side of the ball, they have been fantastic. In particular, over the last 3 weeks. 17-point game there against the Bengals, not allowing a touchdown in either of the two games there against the Browns or the Giants. Starting to get after the quarterback, starting to rack up some sacks. And as I'll get to later, Trevor Lawrence a little bit more difficult to take down than Daniel Jones or Deshaun Watson. We'll focus on that in a minute. But this Eagles defense has had a bit of an about face here ever since that Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. And I believe one of the biggest adjustments they have made is pressing wide receivers, pressing receivers in general, getting up on the line of scrimmage and being aggressive, not playing timid, not playing scared, but being aggressive. And Quentin Mitchell has thrived in that. Over the last 3 weeks, seeing Cooper DeJean start as your nickel on this defense, he has thrived in that regard. Brandon Graham has come up with big tackles for loss to quell any momentum that is squash any momentum that has been started by the opposing offense. It has been an absolute joy. Josh Sweat had himself a decent game there against the New York Giants. Nakobe Dean is coming to his own. Does he still struggle getting through blocks? Absolutely. But you have seen this defense really start to come together, and we'll see what happens. Darius Slay going into this game is listed as questionable. Eek. See what happens there. Maybe he's going to rest up for taking on the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know. But this defense has really come into its own. And Brandon Graham was also asked about this defense finding its way and keeping faith despite some early struggles in the season. BG on how some of the young guys buying into everything has helped turn the tides of this season.
I think it's just more about believing in it every week, and you got to make sure that you keep the young guys believing in the dream. I always say, like, look, at the end of the day, you got to stay with it, because you see, we started off good, then we had a little bumps in there, and then now I feel like a lot of guys it's just like it's finally hitting, it's finally showing up, man. Just even the young guys like Coop and Q, seeing them make plays, and just seeing, like, some of the vets going out there doing their thing and playing, and Kobe, letting them know at linebacker, him and Zach. I mean, I think it's a lot of people got stuff to prove, and I'm happy that everybody, didn't give up on it when it got hard.
When you talk about one of the most miraculous stories of this season, one of the most miraculous stories, I'm shocked that this hasn't been talked about more. Like, we could all talk about Zach Bond exceeding expectations. Like, when the Eagles got him, we weren't exactly sure what he was going to be. But Zach Bond is a guy that barely played any non-special team snaps with the New Orleans Saints throughout his career. And Vic Fangio saw him play a little bit at linebacker, a little bit outside, mostly. And he looked at him and went, that guy right there, he's a starter. And not only is it a starter, he could just be a star And here he is leading the Eagles defense week after week after week. Is he calling plays? Is he the signal caller? No. But he's a guy who's making a lot of plays. And I've referenced this throughout the week because it's one of my favorite takeaways from this game against the Bengals, because I think it showed a lot for both guys. One was Nakobe Dean getting after the Bengals to force that fumble, or to start the play that forced the fumble. Zach Bond coming in, punching the ball loose with Nakobe Dean his arms wrapped around the ankles there, recovering the football on the turf. Beautiful play by the Eagles linebackers on that. Beautiful play. More of that, please and thank you. And Zach Bond, along with Quenyon Mitchell throughout this season, this defensive line figuring it out with Jordan Davis and certainly Jalen Carter being a problem really over the last 3 weeks in the middle of that Eagles defensive line, time and time again. You are seeing this Vic Fangio defense now allow under 19 points per game throughout this entire season. 18.9 points per game. That is incredible. And now you're facing a Jacksonville Jaguars team that's coming into South Philadelphia at 2-6, have certainly had their struggles. They have put up points. It's not like they've just struggled overall offensively. They have put up points. They have battled in a lot of these games. They have one absolute blowout that was on the road against the Bills. They played the Browns tight. They played the Dolphins tight. They played the Colts tight. They won that game. They got beat up pretty bad by the Bears, and they're coming off a very tough loss against the Green Bay Packers, where they lost on a last-second field goal there by their former kicker, who they released, in Brandon McManus. They also have played they've done a phenomenal job, the Jaguars, against the run. More on that in a second. But the Eagles are facing a team that they should beat. Like, hands down, the Eagles should beat this team. And the defense should be able to keep this Jaguars offense under wraps throughout this game. The Eagles are favored by 7.5 points going into this game. This isn't in my top 5 things I'm watching in this game, but just something I'm aware of. Doug Peterson is still a phenomenal players coach. Jacksonville Jaguars are not a phenomenal team, okay? Both those statements can be true. If you've watched football long enough, you know that there are outside influences that, for whatever reason, influence the game inside the stadium. I think an outside influence is these players know that Doug Peterson is very much on the hot seat. And they very much know that this game against the Philadelphia Eagles means a lot to Doug Peterson personally. And professionally, it could mean a lot more. Because if the Eagles do what the Eagles should do, like looking at paper going, one of these teams is really good. The other team sucks. The team that's really good should win this game. There's always that weird game that the Eagles should win that they lose. The Falcons game, I could see the Falcons coming into Philadelphia and winning that game, and they did. I didn't predict it, but I could see it happening. I wasn't shocked and my mind blown that the Eagles lost that game. Some unfortunate things happened at the end of that one, and that's that. The game against the Buccaneers, I could totally see the Eagles going into Tampa Bay and losing or getting blown out, and that's exactly what happened in that game, unfortunately. Jacksonville Jaguars have no business coming into Philadelphia and beating the Eagles, but sometimes one team just knows how to pull focus more than the other. And despite the overwhelming advantage of talent that the Eagles have over the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Jaguars could come into Philadelphia and rally around their coach and try to save their season, blah, 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 blah. All those high school hairy things you say before a game like this could actually affect the way this game plays out. Last year, it wasn't an emotional thing by any means, but as far as being unexpected, I didn't expect the Eagles to go into North Jersey and lose to the Jets in a clunker of a game. But that's the way that one went. So I could totally see the Jaguars coming into Philadelphia and winning. It shouldn't happen. I'm not predicting that it's going to happen. But it could be one of those games where you go, they just rallied around their coach and there's no real explanation. The Eagles made some mistakes and Jacksonville took advantage of all of it. Certainly not something you could watch for in the game. You can't watch emotion and what it means to a team to win for their head coach and attempt to do something with their season. But it's haunting my thoughts going into this game. Let me get into the spoiler. I'm picking the Eagles to win. It's just one of those dumb things that I don't want to see creep up on the Eagles. I just talked about the offense, or should be about the defense and what they've been able to do this season. Excuse me. Eagles 18.9 points per game is what they're allowing as a defense. As an offense, they have been spectacular over these last two games, especially. Back-to-back 20-plus point wins, or back-to-back 20-point wins, I should say, for the Eagles, beating up on the Giants, which they should have done, and then being able to really close out that game and take full control in the second half against the Cincinnati Bengals, coming up with clutch plays defensively, and then also put away plays, whether it's Saquon Barkley breaking free for a touchdown, whether it's Devontae Smith down the middle of the field for a 45-yard touchdown pass, whether it's Jalen Hurts scampering along to make sure he extends a drive. Killer after killer after killer play for the Eagles. This will be another game where they're going to have that type of opportunity to go out there and have that type of success as an offense. One of the things we talked about going into this year was Saquon Barkley, the addition of Saquon Barkley, and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and feeding those mouths, so to speak, while still feeding Saquon Barkley. That was not a concern for me going into this season, because even with DeAndre Swift or Miles Sanders, the running back got their touches. The running back scored their touchdowns. All the while, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith still somehow miraculously had their 1,000-yard seasons. So feeding three positions, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 1A, and running back 1, everybody ate. And even over the last couple of weeks here, the tight end position, whether it be Dallas Goedert or Graham Calcaterra, those guys, that position has eaten as well. So sharing the football, or as Jalen Hurts did put it last week, a lot of mouths to feed, has not been a problem. The only guy that might be starving is Jahan Dotson. That might be the only guy that's starving, but even Jalen Hurts said, that's coming. And sooner or later, that's coming. He's putting in the work. That's coming. All right, fine, that's coming. But I look at this Eagles team, and I see three guys, three weapons, and another position group in the tight end position. So that's 4 in total that are getting their touches, and they're getting their love, and they're getting their food. It's got to continue against this Jacksonville Jaguars defense. And I'd love to see the Eagles somewhere around 28 points per game by the end of the season, keeping pace with what they've done over the last 2 weeks as an offense. 28 points, 37 points. Keep that coming. Get back to that kind of consistent offense. And the way they do that is feeding everybody. Feed everybody, and Jalen Hurts doesn't give the football away. To reiterate a point I've had for the last really 3 weeks here, I still believe that Jalen Hurts is an elite quarterback. I still feel Jalen Hurts can lead this team to a Super Bowl. The mistakes he was making were so glaringly obvious that they seem like they should be easily corrected. Whether it's a mindset, whether it's schematic, what you could do, whether it's the overall strategy of a team. When it comes to Jalen Hurts not chucking the football downfield in inopportune times when you don't have to do it, or playing the famous phrase now, ball and all that. He just corrects that. Eagles are golden. Eagles are golden. Over the last 3 weeks, he's absolutely corrected that. I'd love to see that continue going into this game here against Jacksonville. But as far as feeding the mouths of this offense, A.J. Brown talked about supporting one another in the locker room and how that has affected the way they play on the football field when it comes to everybody getting theirs. And if you're not getting yours this time, you're due up next.
I think just hanging out with each other, being around each other more and more, and just having that love for one another. And then just to talk about what is it about? It's about winning, and that's the only thing that matters. And no feelings, and none of that stuff matters. You do your job and you make the most of your opportunity. That's all you can do, and that's all you can control. When you learn that, I think, I like to say your life begins when you accept it. So it is what it is, and you just make the most of your opportunities, and most importantly, be happy. Be happy for your teammates, because we all doing it together, and it takes all of us. So.
One of the things I loved about his media session yesterday, one of the things I absolutely loved about it was the fact that when A.J. Brown was asked about Saquon Barkley and how Saquon's impacted things for him and Devontae Smith, the receivers in general, he talked about how Saquon is a, quote, superhuman. He's a superhuman. So obviously the defense always has to be aware of where he is, what he might be doing, what they think he's doing. Their film study have to be concentrating on him. Certainly they got to concentrate still on Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown because they're pretty good too. But it really helps influence the way the Eagles are covered in terms of man-to-man coverage, zone coverage, what they got to be watching for in the backfield with Saquon, more so than any other running back. And I don't think Miles Sanders was a slouch by any means. I don't think DeAndre Swift was a slouch by any means. But Saquon Barkley is that next step up by a pretty huge, giant step. His impact on this offense has been wonderful. And the more the Eagles figure out that they can feed that beast, as A.J. Brown put it 2 weeks ago, going into the Giants game, that's going to open up everything, open up things for everybody. And A.J. is right there. Devontae Smith is right there, whether it's one catch for minus 2 yards, or it's an 80-yard touchdown game against the Bengals. These guys are there to support one another because they know if it's not my turn on this play, it's going to be my turn on the next play. And if this ain't my game, the next game's my game. They know it's just around the corner. One of these 3 guys is going to eat every single week. Not just eat, but feast every single week. This is what's really interesting. Now let me get into my 5 things here. Looking at this game, one of the things that jumps out to me is that everyone wants to see Saquon Barkley go off. The Jacksonville Jaguars have the 9th best run defense in the NFL. 9th best. They're about 110 yards per game. Last week, that was not the case. Josh Jacobs went off against them last week for 127 yards. Saquon, dial it up. Maybe that Jacksonville defense ain't going to be up to par when it comes to facing Saquon Barkley and this Eagles offensive line, which, side note, has been another miracle this year, whether it's Mekhi Becton being out, Lane Johnson missing time, Jordan Mailata being out, next man up, next man up, next man up throughout this entire season. Absolutely incredible. Now looking at this Eagles offensive line being able to block against this Jacksonville Jaguars defensive line, they did not have a great game last week against Josh Jacobs. They did not have a great game last week in their entirety against the Green Bay Packers. Time for the Eagles to eat as well. Saquon could go off in this game despite the good numbers Jacksonville has put up throughout the season. Coming off a bad week, I want Saquon to take advantage of that. Right after that, I'm looking still internally at Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts not turning the football over the last 3 games, only putting the precious pigskin in peril one time on that awful swing play that they threw to Kenny Gainwell against the Bengals, which was just dumb for so many reasons. That's the only time in the last 3 games that you've seen Jalen. I've watched Jalen Hurts go, and I've watched Jalen Hurts throw football, and I've went, oh, okay, thank God. All right. Whew. It's the only time. This is the level of play I want to see from Jalen Hurts for the foreseeable future. Whether it's 14 pass attempts, whether it's 20 pass attempts, whether it's 25 or 30. Just play within yourself. Don't force anything. If it's not there, scamper, scramble, run, buy time for a second. Not there, throw it away. Get it out of bounds. Eat the sack. That's it. That's it. Very simple. Very simple, smart football. And I know the phrase point guard has been mentioned by Jalen Hurts. I know the term game manager has been used by others. I think every quarterback, like what I ask, if any franchise quarterback in the NFL, everyone is asked to at some point manage a game. Have that ability. Does that make you a game manager? No. But if Jalen Hurts can manage a game and then still find that 45-yard touchdown pass down the middle of the field where he drops it in the bread basket of Devontae Smith, then fantastic. If he can hit A.J. Brown in stride down the field, recognizing man coverage, noticing the one-on-one on the outside with A.J. Brown, hit that man in stride, drop it in his hip pocket for a 55-yard touchdown pass, that's so bad. Because that's not just a guy that's going to manage a game for you. That's a guy that's going to win a game for you. You could refer to it as keeping the superpower in your back pocket. Also, not to mention the fact that he can, break off a 20-yard run to help you win a football game as well. Yeah, that's not a game manager. But Jalen, just play within yourself. That's it. Don't force. No hero ball. Do your thing. Do that. This team will be golden. Those are 2 things that I'm looking at from the inside when we're referencing this Philadelphia Eagles team. This thing, you could file it under honorable mention, if you will, but also it's something you can't really watch in this game. Look ahead game, letdown game, trap game. Those phrases, I hate them. I feel like those games, or those phrases are things people say to make them feel like they're inside. Like I could understand a player saying it, but this is where someone, spoiler, a non-player, this is where someone like me goes, yeah, let's steer clear of that one because I can't tell you what's going on in that locker room because I was never a player. But when I hear other players talk about that, former players even talk about it, it raises my eyebrows a little bit because it does happen where maybe the Eagles are concentrating on playing the Cowboys next week. Maybe the Eagles are thinking about, short rest coming up against the Commanders after the Cowboys. Don't look past the Jacksonville Jaguars. Don't let them even get a breath of life. So the one thing out of that I look at in this game that we can watch is, for the love of all that is holy and sacred, start fast. Please. I'm not going to go so far as to say, if you win the coin toss, receive. I'm not going to say that. I am going to say this, though. Score in the first quarter? I don't want to be sweating out a Jacksonville Jaguars game, okay? Because me looking ahead, which I can do because, again, spoiler, I'm not playing in this game. I don't want to be sweating out I don't want to be sweating out the Cowboys. I don't want to be sweating out the Commanders. Those games are probably going to be battles, even though I got no respect for the Cowboys. But those games are probably going to be battles. So please and thank you. Can we make this game a laugher? And you know what would help that game? You know what would help a laugher? 7 points in the first quarter. Let's be greedy. Let's go for 10. Let's get 10 points in the first quarter. Let's get a turnover. Get great field position. Get a field goal out of it at least. Score on your first possession. If there was going to be one particular game so far this season where I wanted the Eagles to just take the ball right out of the gate, it would be this one. But I don't think they have to do that. I think they can just rest on their laurels for a second and just stay with what they normally do. Don't do anything out of character. Don't do anything drastic. Because in all honesty, scoring in the first quarter doesn't matter, i.e. last week. They won by 20 points and they didn't score in the first quarter. So I'm okay with them not scoring in the first quarter. But if there was a game I just kind of like to see it happen, it would be this one. So start fast, please. So the tangible thing, Saquon eating, Jalen Hurts not turning the football over, starting fast are three things that I'm absolutely looking at. The other is Brian Thomas III. He was selected, wide receiver. He was selected right after Quentin Mitchell in this past draft. Coming off a decent game last week, had a touchdown reception. Quentin Mitchell, Isaiah Rodgers, Keely Ringo, whoever's going to be out there, obviously seeing Cooper DeJean match up in some cases as well. Just win that battle. Win that battle. Just something else to watch for in this game. See the Eagles defense continue to be able to contain, top wide receivers for another squad. Finally, I referenced it earlier, but to get more into it, Trevor Lawrence, he's pretty good. It's not great by any means. But when it comes to buying time and making a miraculous play, he can still do that. He's not just some terrible quarterback bust. He can still make plays. Whether it's extending, he's still got the big arm. He can bomb it downfield. He can read a defense. I would love to say that Vic Fangio is going to go into this game and make this kid's head spin and all that stuff. But I feel like that would be too much Paulie pom-poms for you. The thing that bothers me is Daniel Jones, Deshaun Watson. Eagles racked up sacks against the two most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence has only sacked one time last week against the Packers. He's only been sacked 16 times this season. He is certainly not Daniel Jones. He is certainly not Deshaun Watson. If Brandon Graham can get in the backfield, if Jordan Davis can flush him from the pocket, if Jalen Carter can bring him down, if those things can happen, then I'm going to feel a lot better. But it's going to be of the four guys, including Trevor Lawrence, he's going to be the most difficult guy to bring down. I'm interested to see if the Eagles are going to come out again and press coverage, depending on how this first quarter goes. But he is not going to be the guy that is so easily brought down. So that's one thing I want to make sure I'm looking for. Something else also on this, Third down. Eagles struggled in third down last week against the Bengals, especially 7 of 8 converted third downs in the first half of last week. Get off the field on third down. The Jacksonville Jaguars have the 4th lowest third down conversion rate in the NFL. They convert just 32% of the time. They're 50-50 on fourth down. We know Doug Peterson well. We know Doug Peterson likes to go for it on fourth down. So they're 50-50 going for it on fourth down. They have gone for it 16 times this season. In comparison, the Eagles have gone for it 15 times on fourth down. The Eagles have converted 73% of their fourth down conversions. Thank you, Tush Push. So that's the way that one is broken down. Get off the field on third down. Extending drives can be a tough thing. One more thing. I think I'm giving you like 8 things here in my 5 things, but Evan Ingram and Brandon Strange. Mike Gesicki had a nice little game for himself last week, especially on third down in particular. The tight end position is a position that has not been the old norm of Philadelphia, where they just struggle against playing tight ends. This year, they've had a pretty decent year against tight ends. Mike Gesicki, though, unfortunately, he had himself a game against the Eagles, whether it was one circus catch on Avonte Maddox on an out route or a crossing route, rather, or it was just third down conversion after third down conversion, reeling those passes in. Don't allow that to happen against 2 pretty damn good tight ends. That's my ask going into this game. So I look at the tight end play. I look at getting off the field at third down, trying to bring down Trevor Lawrence, which has proved more difficult than most in the NFL, containing Brian Thomas there. Starting fast in this game, Jalen not turning the football over, Saquon Barkley eating, and getting all that done against Philadelphia. Getting all that done against the Jacksonville Jaguars, what I'll be watching for in this game. All in all, I have the Philadelphia Eagles winning this football game 33-21. 33-21. I want it to be a blowout. I hope it's a blowout. I just feel like you're going to get the best the Jacksonville Jaguars have to offer in this game. Cam Robinson also not being there. Tee off on that, please. Please and thank you. Another thing, there is seller's mode already. So by golly, take advantage of that as well. Hey, let me tell you about the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy. Get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. If you want to go to the Eagles game, download the app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. Last minute ticket deals, flash ticket deals. Take advantage of it all on the Game Time app. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsNation.com. Quick show today, unfortunately, folks. Traffic is looking terrible for me getting to Fox 29, but I do have my chat check for you right now. Sean Gillespie, what's going on? Amazing game last night. Glad I didn't bet at all. Yeah, right. April, good morning. April, good luck this morning to all the patient or parents detoxing their kids from candy before school. Yeah, Lil Toots and Leo had a great night last night. Happy Halloween again. April, Sean, poor teachers. Oh, yeah. Mia Sanchez, morning fan. Thank you, Dodgers. Can't stand the Yankees. Eagles could end Doug Peterson after almost ending Sirianni. Fly, Eagles, fly. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Mihai. Sean, let's be amazing. One-arm catch last night. Eclipsed Odell's. It was pretty damn great. Yeah, it's pretty damn great. Shady and Deshaun and Sproles on their most recent podcast. They had Darren Sproles. All I could think about was what we missed on with them. Yeah. What we missed out with them. Yeah. I haven't listened to that podcast yet. I want to give a listen. I saw Darren Sproles was like, Nick Foles over Carson Wentz. Darren Sproles did not get along with Carson Wentz. Let's not forget that. Buenos dias, Senor Eduardo. Yeah, Lawrence won't have anyone to throw to, not to mention their O-line isn't the best in the league. The D-line is about to feast, Farzy. I hope so. Hayden, we getting another pass rusher, Farzy? I think that's the number one target. I saw somebody talk about Adam Thielen. The Eagles could be kicking the tires on Adam Thielen. No thanks. Edge rusher, please. And thank you. Sean Kilray, defense with the highest percentage of opponent plays going for negative or 0 yards. Texans, Broncos, Titans, Browns, Vikings, 49ers. How about that? Eagles are 7th with 34.8%. All right. Jordan Coughlin, what's going on? Love Saquon too. He is a beast. Eduardo Reza. Dubs. Hell yeah. JB, 7.5 favorites. Eagles line. Absolutely. A man called David. Thank you very much. Thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys are wonderful. Sorry, I got to jet out early. I apologize, everyone. Be back with you guys Monday morning. And, of course, on the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel for all your Eagles pre- and post-game needs come Sunday at 4:05. Have a great weekend, everyone. Talk to you guys on Sunday. See you guys then.